Hi, this is Tuan Aditya from LightHaven. Today we're going to be going over vertical slashing lines with the stick, with the sword, with the knife. I'm going to be sharing with you the way it was taught to me by Grant Tuhan, including the footwork that it was taught to me with. There's a lot that is behind this drill, including the way you transfer your weight, the way that you're adding thrust after every slash, how you are doing a broken and a fluid slash, how you're attacking different targets. Um, there's a lot within this drill, and so even though it seems rather simple, there's a lot of substance. So you should try and get as much repetition of these lines with this particular footwork as possible. Before we begin, it would mean a lot if you would subscribe to the channel. At the end of the video, if you like what you saw, if you learned from what you saw, please do like and share this video. If you have anything to add to the discussion, leave that in the comments down below. If you have any questions or requests for future videos, please also leave that in the comments down below. All of these things really do help out the school and the channel a lot. Our online program is up and running, our residential program is up and running. To enroll for either of them, check out the links I'm going to leave down below. So let's start with the footwork. Start with your weapon hand in front, whichever is your weapon leg, start with that in front. And you're going to take 3 steps. The front leg is going to start, take a small step with the front leg, small step with the back leg, and then a third small step, but it's almost like a stamp, where you're stamping and dropping your weight down and forward. So it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. You want that big stamp because you want to drop that weight forward. You want to drop that weight forward and down because that's going to be a big cut all the way from the top to the bottom. So one more time. 1, 2, stamp. 1, 2, stamp. Going back also is going to be the same thing. Normally, if I'm going back, I would use my back leg to begin. 1, 2, 3. However, because I want to coordinate my stamp with the weight going forward and with that cut that's going to come, I'm going to now start with the front leg itself. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Going forward, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Going back, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. This stamp, generally, I think of the stamp as only something in the beginning that's teaching you to sink down and forward into that slash. So you're putting all of your mass or all of your weight behind the edge of your blade and looking to cut through somebody. But once you have that mechanic down, and there are different ways of doing that. There's tire training, there's this training, there's a whole bunch of different ways. Training with a dumbbell. There's a bunch of ways that you can teach your body that mechanic. Once you have that down and you are comfortable with it, then you no longer need to have this big stamp anymore. Then the footwork can be a bit stamp can be a bit more subdued as long as you're sinking your weight into the slash. Now with the weapon, I'm going to start from my high load, which is above my head. Now I want to have sort of the middle of my weapon above the center of my head. I don't want to be too far back, and I also don't want to be too far forward. I want to be somewhere in the middle. The way I'm going to cut is it's going to be a cut down to about the bridge of that nose. It can be a bit deeper, a bit further down also. And then I'm going to pull it back up. And then the second cut is going to go all the way down to my groin and then pull it back up. So broken, fluid, broken, fluid, broken, fluid, or shallow, deep, shallow, deep, shallow, deep. Like a shallow cut or a deep cut. A shallow cut or a deep cut. Shallow cut, deep cut. Now I'm going to coordinate this with my feet. So starting from my high load, with the first step, flash, as the back leg comes in, I'm going to pull it back up. With the stamp, I'm going to cut all the way down and then reset. So 1, 2, 3, back. 1, 2, 3, back. 1, 2, 3, back. Now going backwards, the same sort of mechanic. I'm going to do the first cut with my first step. So 1, as I pull it back. 2, and with the third step, cut all the way down, pull it back. 1, 2, 3, back. 1, 2, 3, back. 1, 2, 3, back. 1, 2, 3, back. There are 3 steps but 4 movements. It's 1, 2, 3, 4 is the retraction back to high load. Oftentimes, one big mistake that people make with the footwork is instead of taking 3 steps, they'll take 4 steps. So they'll go 1, 2, 3, 4. They'll have that last step in. What this does is it shortens your stance a lot. So you're no longer in the fighting stance you began with. 3 steps, 4 movements of the sword. So one small step with the front leg, with a shallow cut with the sword. Small step with the back leg as I retract. Big stamp with the front leg as I cut through. Pull it back with no step, no movement of the leg. 1, 2, 3. As I do the fourth motion with the sword and retract, I am not moving my legs. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Going back. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 4 is the retraction. Once you're comfortable with this basic movement of slashing shallow, slashing deep. This is a shallow cut, almost like a broken slash to the bridge of the nose. It can go down to the throat, it can be to the eyes. It's a shallow cut. And the second cut is a deep cut, almost like I'm cutting somebody in half. That's why I want to sink my weight behind that slash. I want to really drop my weight behind that slash. One mistake that people do when they do this is that they think of hitting a target down there. That's not my target. My target begins from here and I'm cutting down. That's how I want to think of it. I'm cutting down. So I'm extending here. I'm not only extending towards the end, I'm cutting down with more of my weight and mass behind the edge of that blade. There's one more thing that we have to add into this. Remember the old saying within Pekiti that every slash is followed by a thrust and every thrust is followed by a slash. This is one of the first places where you actually see that in practical action, where that's a slash. Now the retraction is a thrust. I'm thrusting back up. Slash, thrust. So it's slash, thrust, slash, thrust, slash, thrust, slash, thrust. It's almost like a plucking motion going from 6 o'clock up to 12 o'clock. All the other slashes are 12 to 6, but the thrusts are 6 to 12, putting straight back up. So it's slash, thrust, slash, thrust. Now let's combine that with our footwork. Slash, thrust, slash, thrust, slash, thrust, slash, thrust, slash, thrust, slash, thrust, going backwards. Slash, thrust, slash, thrust, slash, thrust, slash, thrust, slash, thrust, slash, thrust, slash, thrust. In front. So coming back to the whole thing again, make sure your footwork and your stance remain the same. The length of my steps should be the same, because if the length of my steps change, I'm going to either come in too much. My stance is either going to get too wide or it's going to get too narrow. So if this is the stance I begin with, this is the stance I'm going to maintain through the whole drill. Whether I'm going forward or whether I'm going backwards, this is the length of the stance that I want to maintain in the whole drill. Also, in the beginning, it might help to exaggerate the sink. So I'm going 1, 2, exaggerate that sink with the step. As you can see, my hip is sinking down with that cut through. 1, 2, exaggerate that sink. 1, 2. And as you get more comfortable with that sink, you can reduce the amount that you exaggerated so that it's still there. It's just not as big and pronounced as it was earlier. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you, Neha, for assisting me with taking the video. If you like what you saw, if you learned from what you saw, please do like and share this video. Please do subscribe to the channel. If you have anything to add to the discussion, leave that in the comments down below. If you have any requests for future videos or any questions, also leave that in the comments down below. All of these things really do help out the school and the channel a lot. Like I said earlier, our residential program is up and running, our online class is up and running. to enroll in either of them, to train with us through either of them, check out the links I'm going to leave down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and see you in the next video.